Hello everyone. I've been trying for a while to do a video on political philosophy about Marx and Engels, and this is just an attempt to do it. It's going to be very hard. Why? Because there's a lot of prejudice, a lot of preconceived ideas on the subject of Marx and Engels, how it all came to happen, how this outstanding theory came to be crafted by Marx. Of course, he's an out of the norm intellectual, and he met an out of the norm person as well, Engels. The two of them got together, and whatever came from them was, it seems to have been a real synthesis. I suppose, of course, Marx thinking it's slightly influenced by Engels. Like, it's impossible to know how much, right? But of course, most of Marx's work is his ideas, but they're very processed in a way that there's a lot from Engels there as well. And that is the way how this ideology came to exist and be prominent as well, because somehow it had momentum. It is one of the moments where something is produced and it meets the real moment for it to be done, and that was it. Historical materialism already existed and was already discussed by many authors, but Marx put it in a way that was outstanding, simplified, courageous, especially courageous and deviant as well, with courage and certitude. He was daring. He was daring society in all of his works, mostly everywhere. You can sense that from Marx. And so it was a theory, a disruptive theory that came to impose a new truth. Basically, somebody could finally say the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Of course, many authors before him worked on that, right? Feuerbach, Hegel had a lot of influence on Marx, but especially also the French socialists, Diderot and Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a big influence in Marx, especially whatever he said about private property, right? Rousseau shed a light on the private property thing, which other people had already thought about, right? But and there's other people, right? Other intellectuals in the century of Enlightenment, which was the 18th century. So this topic was there in a moment that had to be there. Voltaire as well had an influence. Voltaire was important in France, and other people. So Marx, everybody says, of course, he's German, so he had German ideology. German idealism was big thing, but then he was influenced by French socialist philosophy, and then finally sealed with British political economy, which came mainly from the roots of Adam Smith. David Ricardo was a big influence on Marx, right? David Ricardo, like Marx, had a family background coming from the Jews that left Portugal during the Inquisition, right? The Inquisition expelled all these Sephardic Jewish families from Lisbon, and they moved to Amsterdam. Many of them moved to Amsterdam, many of them somewhere else, right? To Greece, to the Americas. But a big stream of them moved to Amsterdam, and from there, the father of David Ricardo moved to London, and the mother of Marx eventually came from a family that moved to Germany from Amsterdam. So that's an important fact. You know, all this erudition of those families. I mean, their intellect was really high, and so the intellectual base of this family structures was huge. So Marx and a father and his mother were something else, right? Of course, it comes from there. But this was all a coincidence, right? In a way, like German, France, and British thought put in a single theory was like outstanding, right? The moment where Europe starts to internationalize in a more rapid way, people were allowed to acquire knowledge more easily in the 18th century, right? In the 19th century, more so than the centuries before. So yeah, this is an important geographical factor, right? Where we can say the geography of thought played a key factor. And so, what is Marx in the world of philosophy? Is that where it means that we're reaching a disruptive moment. And when I said Marx or Marxism, I'm not talking only about Marx. We're talking about historical materialism, socialism, communist theory, which is what came to exist. And even though for the last century there has not been changes or advances in this theory, it was the pinnacle of of human thought, of human idealist thinking, and it's highly influential from now on. All right, I'm talking in like centuries. From now on, we're not what happened with Marx is just happened 150 years ago, right? So it's very recent in historical terms, and therefore we have to look at it in a perspective that is, zoomed out. And so it tells you that there's a big distance, right, between ideology and idealism, especially idealism and the reality of humans. And there's where I wanted to go. Are we living in a better world? There's a lot of philosophers that say that we live in the best possible of worlds, others that we don't. So there's a lot of dirt, that we might not want to think about it. But World War I and World War II were horrible events, the most destructive in human history, and whatever happened there was really strong. And then even today, there's a lot of slavery, there's a lot of human trafficking, there's a lot of bad things happening. So there's always, for every advance in society and every good thing that happens to humankind, there's also a dark side. This is natural. But we are getting a wider gap between the good and the bad. And so that's probably where communism comes to exist. Because it reflects, an idyllic society that is very hard to reach. And if it happens, it will only be in a part of the world, which is what happened in the last century. It was only Russia, China, not all the countries at the end. There was no socialism for the whole world at the end. And it will be very hard to reach that level. Although there's people that says that eventually in 500 years or 1,000 years from now, the whole world will be communist. We don't know, but good and bad will always exist. That's more likely to happen, right? So this gap between idealism and the reality of men is getting wider and wider and wider. So that's the subject of Greek. The whole thing of the Greek philosophy was talking about that the first gap that happened was there when Plato battled against the ancient poets. So Pindaro, Hesiod, and Homer, right? Plato was against them, and also against the poets, the tragedian poets. So Plato broke with all ancient Greek philosophy, and the gap started to increase from there on, because Plato is a very rationalist, but at the same time realist thinker. Especially in the Republic, we see that, and from there until the Enlightenment, and we see that the gap started to increase even more and more and more, faster. And so that's what we are seeing in the long term, and that's what this video was about. I wanted to know what you think about it, but this is what's happening. We have to not see socialism and Marxism and historical materialism from a radical politic perspective, but what it means. Because if Marx wouldn't have gone there, somebody else would have eventually, sooner or later, found these truths and exposed them, and somebody else will do it in the future as well. So is this the direction we're taking? That's the question. So I'm not saying something that I know, but I wanted to pose that question, and that's the objective of this video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.